Today's episode of Thrive Gwinnett is brought to you by Rocket IT. We help businesses leverage and automate their technology to ensure each day is more profitable than the last. Your technology should work for you in a way that grows your business and helps you reach your goals. To learn if your organization could benefit from one of Rocket IT's personalized roadmaps, visit rocketit.com/roadmap help or click the link in this episode's description. Hi, everyone. I'm Colleen Frangos, Rocket IT's Community Relationship Coordinator, and welcome to another great episode of Thrive. Today, I've got a fantastic guest. He's a good friend of not only mine, but Rocket IT's. This is Josh Myers. Josh, welcome.
Good morning.
Good.
Great to be here.
I'm glad you're here. Let's do this. So Josh is the senior accountant for a great organization called the John Maxwell Company. And while I think everyone is very familiar with that name, John Maxwell, maybe they don't necessarily know, Josh, what the company is all about. So maybe you can just give us a good overview of what your organization does.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you mentioned, John Maxwell is our founder and our namesake. He has built his reputation on leadership expert advice and started long ago writing some books. So he was an ex-senior pastor at a church in California, moved to start writing books on leadership and took principles out of the Bible and kind of turned them into some of his leadership content, which then blossomed into, he usually does about annual book releases. So a new book every year. I mean, he's up to, I think we're at 87 books now that he's got under his name.
Wow.
And so what we get to do here is we get to sell his content, his books. We get to create leadership trainings. So we'll go into an organization or company and we get to kind of teach John's principles. And then the third thing we get to do is we're kind of branching out into digital learning, which is now that the world's so connected and we've got internet and it's available, digital courses and ways to kind of teach ourselves self-taught stuff via the web. So that's kind of the gist of it.
No, it's amazing. Yes. And very powerful and great tools, I think, for anyone, no matter what level of leadership they are. And I think kind of finding that leader within in a variety of aspects. So it's great content that y'all are pushing out and able to get in front of people with. So we're glad you guys are here. And, you mentioned a little bit about the digital side of things. And I think very much like what we're doing right now, connecting over a call, you guys have had to, make some changes, but I'm curious from a community aspect first, how have you guys been able to give back in our community, here in Gwinnett, which is where the company is headquartered. And has the pandemic changed how you guys are able to give back?
Yeah, that was a great question. The cool thing is John's legacy is just all over this company and we embrace that. And, if you want to be a teammate here, you've got to share our values. And one of those is serve. So over the last, I think 3 years, we started an initiative where we literally give back to the community. And of course we make donations to nonprofits. And I mean, not to downplay that. That's an important role that a lot of people get to play financially for nonprofits. But, the biggest thing we can give is our time. I mean, that it's invaluable and you only have so much of it and you can't make more of it. So what we decided was once a year, we do a community outreach where and it's basically mandatory. I mean, and our whole company, it's one of those things where it is mandatory, but it's because you want.
Yes.
It's not because they're telling us to.
Yes.
And so, but we've actually partnered with, I just want to make sure I say it right, the Gwinnett Co-op. We've been doing the Buford location.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and we've got a few contacts in there that we're familiar with and we've worked with them the last 2 years. Well, I say 2 years, 2020 put a wrench in things. So we didn't go on site to help with them the past year, but 18 and 19, I think were our first 2 years there. We had a chance to go in. We had 3 teams of people One was kind of the muscle, restocking the food pantry, moving the canned goods, kind of queuing up all their stuff. Then we had the greeters, our extroverts of the,
There you go.
not me, out front, shaking hands, passing out the goods to the community.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a handful of people organizing the thrift store. They have they have a little thrift store where they do sales to kind of just generate revenue for the nonprofit. So that's been fun.
Definitely.
And like you said, so how has the pandemic changed that? Well, like I said, this year we didn't have a chance to go in person and do that.
Right.
What we did do was, this is in coordination with John's newest book. So I'm going to plug that for a sec. It's called Change Your World.
Change Your World.
And yes, and I mean, that's a huge title, right?
It's big.
Like, can you imagine the implications of calling a book Changing Your World? So what they did was they launched a website, changeyourworld.com,
Okay.
if you're interested. And the premise is that we can learn about our values. There's a whole assessment on there that's free. It's about 60 questions.
Okay.
And it says it takes about 7 minutes. Once you're finished, you get a little assessment profile and you can kind of match up what your values are. And there's a way to connect with a group. And I mean,
wow.
It's funny, how important is it to be able to connect with people in a pandemic season, especially?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just, we've been closed off so long. It's hard to know what it means to come back and what healthy community interaction is.
Yeah.
So we've kind of done some of the work. We have these, what they're called transformation tables, where you can go through some of this content together. It's all free. There's no cost of any of this. All John wants is to share the values across the nation. I mean, he's literally looking to try and change the world. So this is one of those ways where, I mean, it's a lot of John's content.
Yeah.
You get a chance to network with your community. You get a chance to learn about your values. And then the idea is these transformation tables are encouraging you to hold each other accountable to changing your world. So every meeting, I forget how many weeks it is, but you're going back, you're following up on your initiatives.
Okay.
And you've got a team of people who are keeping you accountable to what you've been doing.
Wow.
So if you're interested, that's out there. That's cool. One of the ways we gave back in this pandemic season, where it's like, you're unsure what it really means to be able to meet with people and keep a community interaction, but we've kind of provided a way and keeping it at no cost. I mean, just trying to really
it's a great
change our world.
Yeah. Well, I love that. Changeyourworld.com or .org?
You got it. .com.
.com. Okay.
And it'll take you right there.
Very cool.
So,
well, I can't help but notice you said the word transformation. From a business standpoint, I mean, you've kind of hit some of this, but
sure.
I think everyone has had to transform how they do business. I mean, even, how they work with their teammates, just being in a remote environment. But how has that transformation for the John Maxwell Company during the pandemic been for the I don't want to say the better, but how?
Sure.
I mean, what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, that's a great question too. And it's funny you ask, because like I said, we'll do leadership trainings. That was a big part of our organization. That's probably about a third of what we do. And we would hold like trainings of about 15 to 30, 40 people, just depending on the size of the room.
Yeah.
In person with our facilitator, reviewing it live, doing all the and with little group tables, and we're all just trying to consume content. And that basically came to a halt as of March last year. Right. And so it's like, how do you replace that? Well, Zoom can only take it so far, right? Like digital can only do so much. So we also have twice a year, we have live events.
Right.
Kind of one in the spring, one in the fall.
Yeah.
And the spring event is called IMC, or International Maxwell Conference.
Okay.
We invite a lot of our we have some affiliate coaching program. It's just another way to monetize kind of going through and teaching John's content.
Gotcha.
But those guys would come in once a year and go through their certification training. It's a huge live event. It's 3 days on site.
Wow.
We run out. It's in Orlando. We run out there, Expo Center, and it's just a ton of fun. I mean, just huge fun. Well, the site wouldn't even host it. They just couldn't make it happen with that many people in one
Yeah.
place. It just was a big liability.
Right.
So we kind of pivoted. We transformed and we looked at what it would look like to turn that virtual. So we tried this new platform that was kind of new to the market and just took a risk and went in all it. It was called Hop In.
Okay.
And tried that out, and it was amazing. It was brilliant. I mean, they had a way to integrate all these different communities, all these different. If you imagine if you've ever been to a conference and there's sessions and
Yeah.
they're breakout sessions and they're
Right.
each in a different location, we basically had that virtually, and so we had groups of people over here doing like international, and one's over here doing domestic, and one over here doing, like values based. And it was just so cool to see how we were able to kind of recreate that environment there.
Yeah.
And the cool part was it made it really accessible. So
Right.
there was a lot of people who live internationally who can't. We used to host in Orlando. Well, they can't travel. I mean, they just don't
Yeah.
have the funds or the health or the mobility to be able
Right.
to get out here, and they basically were missing out.
Yeah.
And so when we turned it, virtual, we kind of thought we were trying to figure out what we lost, but it seems like we gained a lot. Like all these people had a chance to experience something that they otherwise wouldn't have ever had a chance to experience.
Yeah. You broadened your reach.
Right. And then we could kind of lower costs because we
Mm.
don't have to facilitate some of that stuff physically
Right.
or in a live environment. So, I mean, it kind of turned into win-win. I mean, we, at the end, after reviewing it, we were like, this is our model going forward. I totally transformed. I did want to mention then our fall event is a little different,
Okay.
but it's the same premise where we have a live, instead of a breakout session,
Mhm.
it's just a one-day event here locally in Gwinnett,
Okay.
typically hosted at one of the 12 Stone church buildings. They just let us use their space.
That's nice.
Yeah. But again, it changed this year where we could only host a certain amount of people with social distancing practices.
Exactly.
But by opening it up virtually, we did a live stream. And again, it just brought a huge amount of accessibility to people. Again, people who wouldn't otherwise be able to what am I trying to say? Get themselves here physically were
Right.
able to see the event.
Yeah.
Again, it lowered costs a little bit by not having to host as much live. And then we opened it up. Tickets, we were able to sell tickets a little cheaper and just brought the content to a whole wider audience of people. So it's
huge.
funny because we transformed this whole business that essentially was going to go to like, what is this going to exist anymore?
Right. Oh my gosh. So many people have had that question. Like, am I relevant?
and like, are we going to lose this part of our business? Like, is this all going to go away?
Yeah.
Well, we kind of could turn it into, it ended up bigger. I think we did more revenue on each of these events than we have in any prior year without. And I mean, isn't it funny for it to take the world's, I don't want to like downplay the impact of this on people
Right.
as health,
Mhm.
but I think there's been just some cool ways to innovate around it. And I mean,
Yeah.
kind of the American spirit is built off of just kind of pulling your pants up and,
Let's just go.
and trying something new.
That's right.
So I think, yeah, so
It gives you hope. I mean,
yeah,
we're able
it really
to
does.
come up with the stuff, keep going, keep moving forward. Don't sit and wait around for something to
Yeah,
happen. Get out there and do it. And I
I
think
agree.
y'all are a perfect example of that and bringing
And I
it to
think,
a greater audience. That's cool.
yeah. And I think even you hosting these talks,
Yeah.
it's just another way to bring the community together.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's a lot of what we're doing here. I mean, of course, it's a business and wants to make money, but
Right.
ultimately, and John's values are with people. I mean,
Mhm.
people first is his mantra. So it's just cool
Absolutely.
to be able to do this, even our little talk, and just kind of unite our community.
I agree. Absolutely. Yeah, you said it super great. Well, and Josh, I mean, I think your organization really brings a lot of hope to people. And that is kind of the purpose of Thrive, is just to bring that hope to the forefront, bring it to the top of our news feeds on social media. Because I
Yes.
think people need to have that and just really, have perspective. Like you said, yeah, it's not all, peaches and whatever, but
Yeah,
there's still a lot of good going on in our world, and let's
absolutely.
talk about it. Let's make that a conversation. So, Josh, with that said, thank you so much for your time today, and I'm so glad that you were a guest on our show. So,
Thank you, Colleen. The pleasure's all mine. I love what Rocket does. I love getting to keep up with you guys and what you guys are doing for the community.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks again. And everyone, don't forget changeourworld.com. Did I say it right?
You got it.
Okay.
Changeyourworld.com.
There we go. We'll put it in the notes here, but definitely check it out. A free resource. And you guys, thanks for another great episode on Thrive. Stay tuned for the next one. And if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel because we got a lot of great content coming your way. So that said, have a great day, everybody.